Hoi! Just before the end of the year, I really wanted to film a quick Q&A video as I'm leaving for the Netherlands tomorrow before Christmas, and then I'm returning to London to celebrate Christmas there. And the end of the year is always the time of the roundup videos, the favorite books of the year, goals for the next year, etc. So I thought right before that it would be fun to do a little Q&A. So on Instagram stories, I asked you to send in some questions, and I kind of said they could be about anything and give some topic suggestions. And most of them were about freelancing, travel, life balance, and goals. First question was favorite travel spot of 2019 and anything in particular you can recommend there. I think my favorite holiday of this year, which is a year where I mostly stayed in the UK and the Netherlands, and I went to 2 other places in Europe. I think my favorite place was actually Cornwall. I went on a 4 or 5 day holiday via sleeper train with my boyfriend Jer. We mostly just wandered around towns, did loads and loads of walking, and had a variety of like stodgy food and scones. It was a holiday that I'd kind of done with my parents before, but I always thought you needed a car. And then some of my friends went to Cornwall and did this whole trip that I wanted to do without a car, so I knew it was possible. Okay, so my favorite places were definitely Land's End, and then the walk from Land's End to the Minnock Theatre, which is, I mean, just straight out of Poldark. And then we also went to this teeny town called Mousel, which is really cute. And I think probably the highlight was St. Michael's Mount, which is this beautiful little island with a castle on it that you can only access via a footpath for a few hours a day, depending on the tide, and otherwise you can get there by boat. But it was just magical. There are quite a few questions about traveling. The next one is, if it's not too personal, how do you budget for traveling? So I actually sat down last week and wrote out my full budget for 2020, basically taking into account savings and pension and all the costs I have every month, and then any trips I potentially wanted to go on, and I kind of put in how much transportation would cost, how much like an Airbnb or maybe like staying at someone's house. And that's something that I haven't really done before, because before with like a full-time job and YouTube, it was always possible to do like quite a few weekend trips and maybe one bigger trip every year. But because I have like very specific ideas about where I'd like to go next year, I kind of had to put that in and then calculate it back and figure out how much money I would need to make every month, or like how much money I would need to put aside. I think usually when I travel, especially now that I'm a bit older and I have like different interests, I don't end up spending money on a lot of touristy things. So it's mostly food, which you can kind of scale up and down depending on what your financial situation is at that point, because you can like make your own sandwiches or go out for every lunch and dinner. And then sometimes trips are like with shared groups, so you can share accommodation and like make it even cheaper that way. But yeah, mostly the biggest thing to figure out is obviously accommodation and then travel. And then I kind of figure out how much I would want to spend on food, and if that makes sense, and then any like big things I would want to go visit, like a museum or anything, I'll calculate into that as well. But usually the spending on the day when I'm there isn't as much, and also because for sustainability reasons I'm not really shopping that much anymore. When I used to go to New York or London, I would put in like a shopping budget, and that really doesn't happen anymore. Last travel question: which book has influenced your travel most? I was like, is it Outlander? I've only read a little bit of Outlander, but I've seen the show. It makes me want to go to Scotland even more. But I think the biggest one is probably still Harry Potter. Like if I am in the vicinity, oh actually, you know what? Maybe it's Jane Austen and Harry Potter. Basically anywhere I'm around a place where the Harry Potter or Austen books are set or where adaptations were filmed, I really, really want to go there, and sometimes I plan it specifically around that. So probably those two. Could you do a holiday gift guide for books and or ethical, sustainable gifts? I haven't done one this year because I've been really busy with freelance work and I haven't had enough time to prep. But also I am actually not buying that much this year. I'm doing a few board games, a few treats. But in the past I've done ones on the Take Your Time channel with Marion for like more ethical, sustainable stuff, but did one on my channel for small businesses as well. So I will put all of those in the description. Will you be setting your reading goal at 100 again next year? So this is the first year I've been doing 100. I'm currently on 57 as I'm filming this, so I'm obviously not going to make it, but I'm feeling really good about the reading I've done this year. So I think I'm going to attempt 100 again and see how it goes. Also, 100 is just a nice round number. Like I know I could do 75, but I really like the idea of spending as much time on reading as it takes to read 100 books in a year, and maybe not spending hours on Instagram stories. Then there were some freelancer related questions. Best way to reach out and present yourself in initial emails to clients. I haven't actually had to do loads of that yet. For me, a lot of the learning has been about communication during the process, because usually someone else would have recommended me to someone, if that makes sense. But when it comes to people emailing me, what I always prefer is have a good visual so people can see your work. So whether it's like a link to your portfolio or like a PDF attached, and keep it just short and snappy, and find the right balance between kind of like making yourself seem like a person they would want to work with, but also not just like massively sucking up and massively over exaggerating. People are always busy, so I think if you can make their job easier and basically let them know that you're available, then that's it. Then some people ask, what is your morning routine like? How do you motivate yourself? They like struggle with mornings specifically. So I get up at around the same time every day, so 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then usually I will try and do some work right away just to kind of get on emails or like finish any quick things, because I actually work best when people are not in the office, because there seems to be like less pressure. Not like someone's like sitting there looking at their inbox waiting for me to email them. I always either go to the gym or like take a shower, get dressed, make breakfast, and then kind of try and work in bursts. Because I know I'm not the best in the morning, I also use the morning to do chores sometimes. But in the winter it's kind of hard because I want to also go outside before it gets dark at like 4 p.m. So now sometimes I'm trying to just like get through everything in the morning and then reward myself with a nice walk or just like picking something up from a local shop. And for me, I guess part of the struggle is being overwhelmed, so not knowing where to start. So again, I might have mentioned this before, but just sitting down and writing down the 4 things you want to get done that day, and then you can just start going. Then someone said, I'm fascinated by bilingual people. Do you think in Dutch? And I don't think in Dutch unless I go back to the Netherlands and spend a few days there. It switches pretty quickly. Or if I watch Dutch TV shows or like look at a lot of Dutch people on social media, then it will switch back and I kind of have to make the transition again. My brain is definitely majority English now, except for when I'm counting, which I can only do in Dutch. I was thinking of like finding another bilingual pal to make a video about it again, because I made one years and years back and I thought it would be fun to do an updated one now that I've been living in London for so long. Finally, some goals questions. Do you think 5 or 10 year plans are a good thing, or do you find them restrictive? The way I've kind of tried to figure out my future, rather than to think about like these are the titles I want or these are the big things I want to achieve, I've kind of thought more in a way of what would I like my day-to-day life to look like, or like a week in my life to look like in 5 years time, and then kind of work out backwards like how to work towards that. So how would I find a job or clients that match that, and like which skills do I need to learn to get to that point? What do I need to start practicing now, and what are things that maybe can do as a freelancer but I don't want to focus on as much? Because I think one of my big realizations is that what brings me the most happiness is what I fill my day with every day, whether those are hobbies or people or particular kinds of jobs I do. But basically I'm trying to fill my days with as many things that I enjoy as possible, some of which are obviously work, but kind of trying to figure out what sparks the most joy. It's too inspirational for me. Then someone called me out and said, how's 30 before 30 going? Basically, I turned 30 in January last year and I was gonna do an update video, and then there's just one freaking task I haven't finished yet, which is obviously too late now because, I mean, it's not 30 before 30, but it's 30 during 30. I just need to finish all of Jane Austen. I have 2 books left. Maybe I'll do a proper update on this when I hit 31, which again is very soon, and then talk about whether I'm going to be making a 40 before 40 or whatever list now that I'm 1 year into my 30s. Finally, someone asked, what are your goals for next year? Which obviously I can't reveal yet because I'll be making a resolutions and goal video. If you're interested in that, come check back. I need to check on what my actual goals were for the year, because it's been one of those typical cases where I wrote them down, I did quite a few of them, and then some of them I've just forgotten about. And that's it for the questions. Thank you so much for the questions you sent in. It's nice to do these videos from time to time to kind of check in and see what you guys are wondering about and tell a little bit more about what I'm up to. And before the year is over, I would like to challenge you to see if you have any resolutions or goals that you haven't gotten to, that you might have forgotten about, that you maybe can tick off or get started on before the end of the year. If you do, leave them in a comment below. All right, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Doei!